Hey guys, back for our last video series on our macronutrients. So we've done carbohydrates, we've done protein, we've done fat, and we've done vitamins. So now I'm going to do minerals, and then I'll also get water in here as we finish this out. So downsize this so we can jump right into minerals. So these are really needed for body system processes. They also help with energy, as just like vitamins do. Um, we do need these in specific amounts, and there's many minerals that we could really go over, but we're only going to focus on three for this class. So we'll kind of get into what those are here in just a second. So here's some examples of ones that you might see on the back of food or in food. Actually, believe it or not, so copper actually and chromium are in things. We think of those a lot of times as metals, but they are there. Some other examples here. And then the three that we're going to focus on are there listed on there: sodium, calcium, and iron. We'll first go over sodium. So sodium is commonly well known as salt. We need anywhere from 500 to 2,400 milligrams a day. And the problems if we get less than 500 is that we can be dehydrated. So a lot of times athletes drink Gatorade because of a word called electrolytes. And most people don't know this, but electrolytes is salt. It is sodium. So it's just it's a word that was probably marketed to kind of really aid in helping people continually buy something. It sounds like a special word, but really it's just sodium. So you need water and salt. Whenever you sweat, when you're in activity, you're running, doing different things, the reason, if you've ever gotten that in your eyes or it burns or you've actually got it in your mouth and it's kind of nasty tasting, it's because you're tasting salt. That's actually coming out of your pores. So salt and water, and so you need both in order to maintain hydration. On the opposite end of if you have less than 500 dehydration, if you have more than 2,400 in a day, over a long period of time, it's not just one time. It'd have to be excessively, constantly getting over that. It can cause high blood pressure. The sad thing, though, is in our culture and our diet is that most of us consume more than 2,400 milligrams a day of sodium. So some ways that you can kind of really monitor this would be to limit canned or boxed foods. That's something that would really help. So sodium is used as a preservative. It does help things taste good, but it is used as something that preserves food for a long time. So hundreds of years ago, before they had freezers and fridges and ways to do that, they would actually bury food in troughs of salt, and you could actually choose to get paid rather than getting paid in money from a job. You could get paid in salt because it was a major commodity to have that, to be able to preserve meat if you'd gone out and killed a deer or a calf or something like that, to be able to have that and preserve that meat. So that's why it is important for us to have, but at the same time, it can be quite dangerous if we have too much. Okay, so the second mineral we're going to talk about is calcium. And this is one that we've all seen commercials on since we were little kids. Got milk commercials, things like that. So we know that this is for bone strength. You need 1,300 milligrams a day. And interesting, so 45% of your bone formation happens between the ages of 9 to 12. So there's a massive growth spurt that's going on there between 9 to 12. It's also where a lot of puberty is going on. So major body development. And that's why calcium is needed so much. And you think about it, that's where the age is really targeted when they look at those commercials and things that they do. So an 8-ounce glass of milk is approximately 300 milligrams. So you can think about how much of that, in terms of calcium, you would actually need to have. A deficiency can cause osteoporosis. So an easy way to think of this is if you think of Swiss cheese, but think about that with your bones. It'd be very brittle. And this is why a lot of older people in general, when they fall, they break bones, rather than if you or I fell down, probably bounce back up, might be a little bit sore, but we're okay. Women are already at a risk for this, and just in general, but older people especially, have osteoporosis risks in regards to that. So we need 1,300 milligrams a day. I don't really have any information on what would happen if you're not getting that in terms of deficiency, other than the fact that it could cause osteoporosis. I don't have any other on that end, but in terms of an excess, at this time I don't have any other info on that. Really, you just need to know if you're not getting that routinely, it can put you at a risk for osteoporosis. Okay, last one we're going to go through is iron. And I've got a good example here just to kind of talk about why this is important. So if you've ever been in New York City, or if you could have seen movies with New York City, there's a lot of taxi cabs around. I've been there a couple of times. It's quite crazy, but if you wanted to get somewhere, a lot of times you would just hail for a cab and someone would pick you up. So if you can imagine that the cabs are the red blood cells in your body, and that you specifically are the oxygen, that is what is necessary in your cardiovascular system. It's necessary for oxygen to continually get to where it needs to get to. So if you've ever been outside and it's really cold, that you start to lose feeling in the ends of your fingers. And so what's actually happening is, it's quite simple in nature, but I don't know if we ever really think about it, but it's something where your red blood cells are starting to head back towards the center of your body, where the more important organs in your body, your heart is obviously more important than your fingers and so and your toes, and so it's trying to get back and conserve the heat where it's really necessary. And one of the tests that you can do for frostbite, for example, is if you were to hold up your hand and then push really hard into your hand, you can really see kind of where that pressure was, and usually the color will come back. So it might be red, and then you might see a kind of a wider spot show up, and then it will go back to its natural color rather quickly. If you're having some riskiness for frostbite because you've been outside for a long time, when you would press on that, that color wouldn't come back so quickly. So that's just an example of why getting oxygen to your body is really, really important. The reason that this relates to iron is that if you have anemia, which means you don't have enough iron, then your body is not producing enough red blood cells to carry the oxygen to where it needs to go. So if you can imagine New York City with half the cabs, you got a bunch of people standing around, and they can't get to where they need to go. So when you're inhaling oxygen and there's not enough red blood cells, your body is just really kind of not working in an efficient state. So probably a long-winded example to really give you an idea, but it's really kind of a good example, I feel like, to give you a good visualization of why this is really important. Mothers that are in the process of giving birth, their prenatal vitamins actually are altered based off of their pregnancy from a normal vitamin tablet with an iron need, just simply because they're carrying another baby or another person. Okay, so down below it has teen girls need 18 milligrams a day and teen boys need 12. Earlier we noticed in a lot of the other macronutrients that the guys is higher. So for example, fiber was 38 grams a day, women was 25. So why all of a sudden is the girls higher than the boys? Well, it's a real simple answer, and that's just simply because of just the menstruation with girls, and so that's where the higher need of anemia is needed in that regard. So don't need to go in detail there, but if you got questions on that, you can email me, but certainly that there's a certain need there for girls that's higher than boys. So sources of iron that you would find are in red meats and green vegetables. So there's our minerals as we go through, and then the next couple of the next couple of slides really just have some other things on minerals, where if you're deficient, what that could potentially cause. So there's just some interesting reading out there on that if you want to take a look at that. And then the very last thing, I'll go ahead and cover this, is our last macronutrient is water. And the reason that I'm not creating another video for this is just simply because of how short this will be. So you need to have half of your body weight in ounces in water a day. So If I weigh 150 pounds, I need 75 ounces of water each day. What seems like a lot, and if I'm an athlete or if I'm physically active, I'm exercising and sweating, I need more than that 75 ounces to replenish my body. Most of us, probably 90% of us, do not get enough water on a daily basis, especially if we're drinking coffee or drinking soda. Those things are actually dehydrating you. So even though you're drinking a liquid and filling up your stomach with liquid, it's not the same as water. There's nothing that is better than having water in your system. So the purpose of water is that it transports nutrients, gets rid of waste, and it even regulates your body temperature. So obviously some positive benefits there, and mentioned the what you need to have in terms of every day half your body weight. And then down at the bottom, your body is actually made up of 60% water. Interesting side note, so someone who does figure competitions, if you ever turn the TV on and seen people, doing their little muscle poses, and their muscle fibers are actually almost sticking out, almost maybe in some cases, some people might say it looks gross. The reason their body looks that way is because in the process of figure competitions or bodybuilding, in the last 3 days, they're actually removing water from their diet. So other than having maybe a few sips, they really don't have a lot of water. As a result, they're probably in a lot of discomfort, a lot of headaches. They can get their body to look a certain way, but they're certainly putting their body through a mess for a few days just to be able to prepare for that. And then if you were to see pictures of them within the next 36 hours, they would look drastically different just simply because of the water weight that they've added back to their body. So if you can imagine removing a lot of that 60%, that could potentially alter the way that your body does look. So just an example there of what that might look like. All right, so kind of beyond past here, so there is a Jeopardy review game. I would encourage you to go through and do this on your own. So you can click, just like we've done this in class, you can click on these different sites, these different links, and pull up questions. So like, for example, here I'll click on this Eagles 200. So what's the primary purpose of vitamins? And we talked about that earlier, and that was really to aid in the use of the energy. So and there's your answer, and then you can click back on the screen and it'll go back to the site. So feel free to go through and quiz yourself, and then get prepared for the test that we'll have in our next class. So hope this was helpful, and again, if you have questions or need help in this process, feel free to email me. See you guys.